Hey, what's up? It's Marcel here, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through the agency process design and backlog meeting template. And essentially, the purpose of this meeting is to take everything that we're learning from the time and cost tracking processes that we're running with the team, from the project performance meetings that we're running with them, take that backlog of ideas, and then actually go about getting them implemented. And some of the keys to success with this process are really making sure that the team is involved in the prioritization process and assigning ICE scores, which we'll talk about in a moment, to these things, letting them own the development of the ideas and the processes, and making sure that you assign ownership of these processes, of the development, as well as the maintenance of these processes, to the team. And the reason this is so important is because it, A, increases the likelihood that the process will be properly designed from the start, because often the person or people that we have involved in building that process are the same ones that are doing the work, so they're incentivized to do it well. And secondly, it increases the likelihood that the team's going to follow these processes and encourage their peers to follow these processes as well, because it's not coming from the top down, it's coming from the ground up. And the benefit to you is you don't have to be the one designing all these processes and dictating how they go. You can just be there to kind of offer guidance and advice as you go along. So with that, the next step here is to just talk about where this fits. So this fits in kind of the final step of the agency profitability flywheel. Once we've standardized our estimates, once we've started tracking our cost and time against those estimates to really figure out if there's a gap there, once we've started taking that information to the team and surfacing ideas from them on where we can improve our processes, now the final step is to implement these changes so that we can actually realize the benefits in our business. So that's kind of where we are with that. So there's 3 steps to this process. The first of which is, when we go into this meeting, we wanted to start by reviewing the backlog. So pull it up wherever it is, if it's in a spreadsheet, if it's in an Airtable, a project management tool, on a whiteboard, doesn't matter, anything at all. Basically, I like to set this up as a Kanban board. We have an Airtable template here that you click on this button and it'll take you to it. And you can use that. It's absolutely free. But essentially, we just want to organize our ideas and make sure we understand what's in the backlog, what's in progress, what's been completed. And then in the review stage, we just want to add anything or remove anything to the backlog that might need to get moved around, and review the stuff that's been done or that is in progress as per the last sprint, and celebrate some wins, acknowledge the progress that we're making. The next step after this is to prioritize new ideas using an ICE score. And ICE stands for impact, confidence, and effort. So the way that this works is you usually want to have a scale of 1 to 5 or maybe 1 to 10. And then we want to just go through with the team and agree on a score for each of these areas. So impact is, what is the level of impact that if this thing went perfectly and we were able to implement it, what is the level of impact we think it would have on our performance as a business? So a low score would be a 1, a high score would be a 5 or a 10. The next one is confidence. What is our level of confidence that that impact is going to be realized, right? So what is the probability that this is going to go the way that we think it's going to, and it's going to have the impact that we think it's going to, right? So if you have low confidence, it's kind of risky. We're not sure how it's going to play out. There's a lot of variables. There's a lot of unknowns. Then maybe it's a 1. But if it's like very straightforward and we're very confident the team's going to follow the process, or maybe we've already done something similar in a different area of the business, maybe that's high, that's a 5. And the last one is effort. How much time and energy and effort is it going to take to actually implement this process? Are we just writing a quick document or checklist that everyone can follow? Are we having to build like an entire website or a custom piece of software to implement this thing? What is the level of complexity? How much time and effort do we think it's going to take? Low effort is going to be a 1. High effort is going to be a 5 or a 10. So we want to assign a score to each of these things. And then the formula we use to prioritize these is we take our impact score, we multiply it by our confidence score, and then we divide it by effort. And what that's really going to help us surface is, what are the ideas that are going to have the highest level of impact, that have the highest probability of working, and that are going to take the least amount of time and effort to implement. So we go through that prioritization process with the team. And then once we've got our kind of top candidates, then we just want to go about planning a sprint. So the way I love running process improvement is on a continuous basis, the same way that you would do software development with an agile team. So we have a cadence, usually a 2-week cadence or maybe a 4-week cadence, where we meet with the team, we plan what activities we're going to be implementing, we assign ownership to that, we assign resources and time, and then the team goes out and does a sprint and implements these things. So it's important to break down these different deliverables into things that are possible to get done within whatever the cadence of our sprint is. So in this case, let's imagine we're doing a 2-week sprint. we're going to start by looking at the backlog and say, okay, we're going to pick these different elements to implement. So if you have a bunch of stuff that has very low effort scores, like a bunch of things that are a 1, you might be able to do 2 or 3 or 4 of these things in a sprint. Whereas if you have one item that you want to implement that's a 5 on the effort score, maybe you just take that one thing on. So you really want to kind of get a sense of what is the appropriate amount of work that you're able to complete within a reasonable amount of time. And you want to make sure that when you select the ideas for your sprint, that you're trying as much as you can to get an amount of work that can get done before the next meeting, or at least get almost completely done before the next meeting. The next thing you want to do is with the team, you want to kind of define what the deliverables are. What is the definition of done for this thing? What are the specs? What is the acceptance criteria? When will we know that this process is done? So we want to come up with a definition of that everyone kind of agrees with. And then finally, we want to make sure that we get an owner for this process. So either we take a volunteer, or, if nobody is volunteering for it, then we recommend a person that might be a good fit. And, a lot of people will default to the operations manager, the project manager, but a lot of times it makes sense for, a discipline lead to maybe take ownership. So for example, if we're saying, hey, we're going to create a library of templates for our website design projects, then it probably makes sense for the design lead to lead that process. But it could be a member of the team as well. But really what we want to do is, as much as possible, get someone to volunteer to be the leader and the owner of this process, and then have that person recruit the team members that they think they're going to need in order to build the process, or maybe sit down with people who are doing the work and get an understanding of what the workflow looks like and test the process with them. So generally nice to have a cross-functional team collaborating on this. And then the final thing we want to do here is we want to schedule the meetings, assign the resources, and protect what needs to be protected in order to give them a fighting chance at getting this process done. What I see all the time, this is a place where this breaks down, is everyone agrees, yeah, let's get this process done, and then they go off and client work starts to take over, and they push it back, and it never gets done, or it extends 3 or 4 sprints, and these meetings start to get canceled, and there's no momentum being built here. So you want to, from the start, agree that you are going to schedule meetings or schedule working time for them to work on this, and that is going to be protected from client work, and you're going to assign the resources and commit to that as much as you possibly can. I can't stress enough how important this part of the process is. So if they need to have meetings, if they need to schedule blocks of time to work through this, if they need to schedule time with each other to test the process, to work through workflows, whatever it is, if you need to assign them a budget to hire a freelancer to do parts of this, do all of that before the end of the meeting, and that should kind of conclude your process. So I've got an agenda here that you can kind of use at a high level to help you guide this conversation. Feel free to download that, use it with your team. And of course, if you're enjoying this content so far, and if you think these processes are helpful, make sure you go and check out Parakeeto. Start your free trial. You will not be disappointed. It is very helpful in giving you everything that you need to set a great foundation for running this process in your agency. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this video training. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.